Yes, morning guys, and I'm just heading off to a gym now, and gotta say it's looking like a lovely day, so let's smash a gym and I'll see you in there. Alright, so what we're doing here is we're just warming up with a bit of RDL to stretch our hamstrings and just focus on the hinge and the hips. It's a lightweight just to start us going, getting the blood flowing through your muscles, and it's really important to warm up. So what we're going to do after we finish this warm up with the RDL is we're then going to move into a deadlift. Basically just going to focus on getting the right technique, and then after doing the deadlift my personal trainer is going to show me a different technique of a deadlift and I'll explain it once we get into it. So here we are just warming up with a light deadlift, just making sure I'm focusing on mind muscle connection, making sure my form is correct, and basically where this is just a light warm-up set, I don't want to be exhausting myself too much, so just nice controlled tempo, making sure I've got all the right technique, right form. So this deadlift he's explaining to me here is known as a falcon deadlift. Basically you've got one side with more weight on it than the other, and it's a really good way to help improve your core strength because you have to use your core to make sure you're lifting the weight equally. As you can see, the first time I was just thinking it was a normal deadlift and I lifted up the side too long, and instead of switching the plates around, all I'm going to do is step over a bar and change the side the weight is on, because it would take so much effort to switch the weight over. So here we just step over, change the angle, and as you can see I still not got the right way of lifting it, but now after the first one it's like, right, yeah, it's falcon deadlift, so it was like I gotta pull slower. Now we're moving on to bench press to warm up. There's 40 kilos on the bar, just a nice little warm up, getting a setting to do a couple of heavier lifts, just making sure I've got the right form, making sure the bar's moving nice and smooth, and it's going up quite easy. I felt really good with this one. So this is my last working set. I do a warm-up set and then I go into 3 working sets, and there's 60 kilos on the bar, and I'm just making sure I'm keeping the tempo nice and low, making sure I'm getting a pause out of the bottom, giving it a full stretch, and as you can see I get pretty fatigued after doing 3 sets. And now we move on to a shoulder press on the Smith machine. My trainer's just explaining and demonstrating how he wants me to do it here, and it's not too heavy because we're just wanting to warm up the muscles and we don't want to fatigue too early. So we do the same thing, we do a couple warm-up sets and then we go into the heavier sets, and we superset the shoulder press, and then we go on to a bench shoulder press and bit of an incline, basically hitting the same muscle but at a different angle. It's really important to make sure you hit different angles, otherwise you're just going to get used to doing the same training and it gets a little bit boring. So here we are, we switch it into a bit of a slight incline on the shoulder press, and as you can see just making sure I'm concentrating on my form, and my personal trainer is just making sure I've got the proper technique, not going down too far, otherwise you're going to increase the chance of injury. Moving on to an incline dumbbell press to make sure I'm hitting the chest as well, and it's still not the perfect format flicking the weights up at the moment, but I mean I'm still learning everything, but I'm happy with how far I've come and making a lot of progress at the moment. And yeah, I'm getting a little bit fatigued here, and he's just explaining he wants me to feel a stretch in my chest as I come down, not going too far down though, because obviously I don't want to injure myself. And he's just explaining I should be exploding up a bit more quicker. Then we jump into close grip bench press. This is a really good way to hit your triceps because you're putting more emphasis through your triceps with a close grip, and it's a really good way to incorporate your triceps, because when you do a normal bench your triceps do work, but if you move your grip closer you've not got so much chest or shoulder activation during a close grip bench press. And he's basically just telling me to use my thumbs as basically a suicide grip, making sure I'm keeping my hand placement in the right place. And then we also do a thing called a cluster set. So this is where you get to failure, you do 4 reps, you rest for 10 to 15 seconds, and then you do another 4 sets, 4 reps, sorry. So as you can see, another 4 reps, and then you rest again, and then you keep going until you cannot hit your 4 reps. And here he's just explaining to me I should be trying to loosen the muscles up a bit, hence why I'm stretching. And once you hit failure and you can't get your 4 reps, you stop there. And then here we move on to a Arnold press. This is a good way to hit your delts and basically your front delts for your shoulders, give it that nice round look. And he's just explaining to me I should be keeping my core nice and steady, not swinging my hips too much, and also explaining don't twist too early, because then that way it's just doing a shoulder press. So on to another shoulder exercise is the side delt raises, and this is a really good exercise for blowing up your side delts, and honestly it is such a good technique to use because you can lean into it and you can get a fuller range of movement. And he's just explaining to me he doesn't want me to be using my arm or any other part, he just wants me to be using my delts for it. And as you can see, it's a little bit awkward. I'm still not used to doing it, so just getting myself set up for it, and it looks a little bit awkward, but he's just explaining if I try to place my hand there it should be easier, which it is. And that's a good thing about having a personal trainer. They can give you tips and basically make sure you've got a right form. And now we've switched into another form of delts. So here we're just going to do a landmine. So we're doing a seated landmine. This hits our front delts, and then we're switching to doing front delt raises with dumbbells. Here is another variation of landmine. It's basically focusing on the side delts now. So basically another angle. I mean, you can change all the angles to hit different parts and still do a similar exercise. And then we move into another delt raise standing with a dumbbell. And it's a really good exercise to superset because you're hitting the target muscle twice in quick succession, and it really fatigues you. As you can see, I'm getting pretty exhausted. It's been quite a long workout. Now we jump into doing a bit of flies. Gotta make sure you hit that chest, and I got to admit, I'm liking the way my muscles are looking in this at the moment. They're looking a bit more pumped up. As you can see, my shoulders are looking nice and defined in there. My arms are slowly starting to get bigger, so I'm really happy with how it's going. And we now superset that with tricep pull downs, and we're just changing the angles using a flat bar, making sure I've got a decent range of movement, hence a little hinge in the hips, and leaning forward, it gives you a greater range of movement and basically gives you a bit more stretch when you push your triceps back. And we're just going to finish off the session with some front raises across the body. This is just to blow up the whole shoulder. It's a really good finishing exercise because it gives you a really good pump at the end of it. And yeah, I got to admit, I was a bit fatigued because I played football the day before, but got to keep the heart healthy, haven't you? Yes guys, so there's that video. It shows a lot of different ways of how to hit your shoulders and your chest, and I'm really enjoying learning different techniques in the gym. And I got to admit, I really enjoyed playing football the other day. I haven't played in about 2 years, so I admit I was knackered afterwards, but it's a really good way to keep your heart healthy, and it's a good way for me to do my cardio because cardio is boring, so if I include it in football, then it's just another good way to keep me fit and active. So yeah, just let me know in the comments what you like to do for cardio or your favourite exercises to do, and I'll see you in the next video, guys.